What's up, guys? What is up here? And today we're going to be doing, as of January 2nd, 2021. Okay, I think that's very important to note in case you're watching this a year down the road and you're wondering, oh my god, why is the information outdated? So, basically, the title says it all. We're going to be doing a tier list of everyone in PvP as of now. I might make this a series, as in like every time a big shift in the meta comes, I might like redo the list or whatever. But this is going to be the version 1.0. It's going to be like, now that we've been in the current meta for a while now, I think it's about time we make a tier list. So anyway, we have our 4 categories here. I was going to do letters, but I think these are better because I think that every school right now is usable. I think you can get high rank on any school right now if you're playing well and you have good stats. So I didn't want to do like CBSA kind of thing because, then people would be upset thinking that, a C school is bad or something. But I don't really think that any school is bad right now, to be honest. So we have, I'm not even going to talk about that tier. We have the crack tier, which is for schools that are just really, really good right now. Not quite our top tier, but they're still really good. We have the very good schools, which are, again, schools that you're not really going to have much problem getting rank on. They're just maybe not as good, I guess, as the crack tier. We have the solid school, which, again, these are going to be solid options. They're maybe not as good as very good or cracked or the top tier, but they're still solid picks, and you should still be able to rank up pretty well on them. And then a little tricky, right? So a little tricky means that this is a school that you can definitely get high rank on, but you're going to have to play smart, and it might take you more matches to get there, I guess. So, without further ado, we're just going to, these aren't really in alphabetical order, but we are going to start things off with balance. So, I don't know, guys. I'm debating whether I want to put it in cracked or very good. I think balance like a month ago was cracked, undeniably. But it seems like lately they're kind of going towards the very good. Because, the reason I say this is some of the matchups that were like either neutral or okay now seem kind of bad. Like, Balance back in the day had a good matchup against Storm. I don't think they do anymore. The problem is Storm just does just a ludicrous amount of damage. And since they can do all their high damage spells, for very little pips, it's not like you can even really control them with mana burn that well. And then their life matchup is really trash. I think they have a decent ice matchup. I think they have a pretty favorable fire matchup. Death is not favorable if they're like a blade stacking death, because again, they're just going to outpace you. Myth is iffy. I don't know. I'm gonna put this in very good. Okay, if this were an A, if cracked were A, very good were B, this would be like one of those situations where you get like an 89.4 in a class and the teacher just refuses to round you up. That's what we're going to do to balance. We're going to put them in very good, but it's going to be like top of very good for sure. Next up is death. So death right now, I'm going to put death in a little tricky. Because the problem with death is they're kind of just a one-note school. They really only have one thing, and that's blade sacking. Can they do other stuff? Kind of. But have you ever seen a death not just blade stack a bunch of times in Deadly Minnow or Tree or something? No, I haven't either. Okay. So if you have a way to counter a blade sacking strat, it's pretty easy to take down a death. Also, just 2 pairs of Aegis set shields really, really ruin a death's day. So, I don't know. Again, I think that you can play a death skillfully and get rank on it, but it is kind of tricky because it's like as soon as you verse a death, you immediately know what they're going to be doing. It's super, like, even their special tech cards and stuff are very predictable. Like, they're obviously going to have Green Oak. They might have Shift Ogre. It's just, they're extremely predictable, and I think that unpredictability is definitely something that you want to have in this current meta. So the fact that death is like by far the most predictable school, well, actually, maybe, I don't know, maybe Storm's more predictable, but either way, it's definitely up there as like the most predictable school. And the fact that what it does is pretty easily counterable by Myth and Storm and anyone with an Enfeeble item card or an Enfeeble pet, it just kind of puts them pretty low. Moving on to Fire, Fire is another one of those where I'm not really sure if I want to put it in very good or cracked, because there's two predominant fire strategies at the time. That's, of course, the overtime strats and the trap stacking strategy. And I feel like trap stack was really, really good a month ago. It was like borderline unbeatable a month ago, but now everyone's packing elemental TC shields and things like that. I don't know. It's hard to say. We're going to put it in cracked. I think it's really good. S'more Machine is crazy. Like a 7-pip S'more Machine is absurdly powerful. Like it's just crazy. And then of course it puts on those special traps, which can only be used by overtimes. So that's kind of cool. It makes it so that your elves do more, or maybe if you're doing it with Fire Wyvern, or God forbid Power Link or something like that. So I don't know. I think that Fire has a pretty good matchup spread across the board. They're very, very scary as soon as they get their Furnace and Wildfire up. So, I mean, yeah, I think okay, what makes Fire scary is that they're somehow able to get pretty decent health with extremely high damage and very low pip high damage spells. So like S'more Machine, FFA, even Fire Wyvern does pretty solid damage for 4 pips, and it's not a shadow. So yeah, I don't know. Fire is still really dangerous. They don't have Ifrit, so I mean they do have Ifrit, but they don't have like minus 90 Ifrits anymore. But they're still really strong. Like even a minus 45 Ifrit can still do a pretty sizable chunk of damage to you and also prevent you from hitting. So I think they're pretty good. I'm kind of on the fence about this or this, right? But I think that cracked is probably a good place to put them, and I think most people would agree with that. There you go. Moving on to life. No, just kidding. I'll explain. So for those of you who don't know why ice is like just the best school right now, undeniably, and gets a tier of its own, ice is just like, there's nothing that ice doesn't have. There's literally nothing. You can't name anything that they don't have. They're able to get really high resistance, really high health, shockingly high damage despite the amount of resistant health they have. They can get perfect accuracy if they want. They can get perfect power pip chance if they want. They can make use of things like the Rude Goblin to get the resistance set bonus. They can also use Icebird pets so that they can still use at least one copy of the Icebird TC that was banned. There was a few really good ice spells that were banned to be used as TC in PvP, but I don't think anything has really changed. Like, ice is still ice. They're still not taking damage and dishing out shockingly high amounts of damage with their overtimes. So I don't know. I don't think that ice is going to go anywhere anytime soon unless there is a huge overhaul with how gear and pierce and resist interact and things like that. But currently, as of now, all ice has to do is slap on a brace, and they're getting like effectively 80 to 90% resistance to every school, which is pretty insane. So it's kind of like, yeah, if you're struggling to get rank on an ice, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe PvP just isn't the right hobby. I don't know, right? Because ice really just is truly broken right now. Like in my friend groups on Wiz, we have a joke going around ice privilege, right? Because it just seems like no matter what, there's always ice privilege. There just always seems to be something going right for the ice wizard, whether it be RNG, whether it be anything. Like, it's just, yeah. And even though Abominable Weaver was nerfed, it's still like a broken move. Like, you can still just Weaver into a shield, and that's probably a good move because you're getting a shield out of it. So, yeah, I don't know. Next up, we have life. Okay, I might catch some flack for putting this in here. I don't know. I'm debating between solid and very good. Because, honestly, I think life is in a pretty good spot right now. I mean, they have a good matchup against ice. They have a good matchup against balance. They have a pretty decent matchup against death as long as they play things correctly. And if they pack, Earthquake. But, I don't know. I'm putting him behind balance. No, we'll keep him in solid. Yeah, okay. Life, I think life is solid. So, right now they do have some pretty interesting, cheeky things they can do, like Grenadier Minion combos. They also have Wings of Fate, which was buffed a while ago, so we've been seeing a lot more Wings of Fate being used. Life is kind of just in this weird spot right now where they're playing very similar to Ice, where it's just slow play and just being a tanky Life, I guess. But Life has the added edge, I guess you could say, to their sword in the fact that they can heal. So if you get them really, really low, they just Scion and heal most of their health back. Or, maybe they periodically Satyr or use Wings of Fate. Either of those are going to work, right? And we've been seeing Life have pretty good success with both. The only reason I'm not putting him in the very good tier is because my gut is telling me not to, because I don't know, putting him in the same tier as Balance seems kind of weird, despite the fact that they do have a very positive Balance matchup. But yeah, I don't know, I think that they kind of do struggle against Myth. Storm can definitely clap them pretty hard because Storm is going to outdamage anything that they're doing to heal. So I don't know. It's kind of tough, and we've been seeing a lot more Storm lately in the queue. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. I think that Life has a lot going for it right now. I think that, again, this is a school that you're probably not going to have too much difficulty getting rank on, but they are sort of a one-trick pony in the sense that they're just going to be spamming Cat and Weaver and things like that. So I don't know. I think that they're solid, but if you're a school that can break through those defenses that a Life has, then you're probably gonna win. Like, I'm the only reason I think I'm putting or debating on putting it in very good is because I'm a Balance main, and it's very, very difficult as a Balance to break through all the absorbs, all the shields, everything that a Life does. So I think that's my own bias coming through, so I'm gonna go with my gut and just put him in solid here. Even though I think I said my gut wanted to put him in very good. I don't know. My gut is churning. it's changing what it wants. So moving on to Myth here. For Myth, I don't know. I'm going to put him in solid. Now the question is, do I want to put him before or after Life? I don't know. I'm going to put him before. Yeah, I'm going to put him before. I think that Myth is really, again, they're just solid right now. Like, that's the best way to put it, is they're solid. Baba Yaga still does a ridiculous amount of damage. It's still extremely scary when you're open and they have a Shadow Pip and the Reliquary and the Myth Bubble and yada yada yada. And it is pretty hard to win a Bubble War against a Myth because they have Rat Illusionist along with their regular bubble changes. So they can be taking off your shields and doing that. It's just in general hard to shield against a Myth because unless you're using Aegis stuff or the spiritual, like the triple spirit shields or whatever, it's pretty hard to actually effectively shield against Myth. And most schools don't have a good option right now for weakness spamming. So I don't know. I think Myth is in a good spot. King Art, after the shift ban, I think that King Art now is a much more viable option for Myth, which again just makes them more scary because they can King Art into a Yaga or King Art into a Charmer or whatever, right? They have a lot of different combo options now that they didn't previously. Myth has just always been good at keeping their passive damage up with their bubbles and their auras. So yeah, I think Myth is in a pretty good spot. I wouldn't quite put them in the very good tier, but I would still say that they're solid, right? They're still solid, and I definitely see a lot of 16 to like 1800 rank Myth Wizards floating around because it's a solid school. If you know what you're doing on a Myth, you can definitely get rank, and it's not that hard. So last but certainly not least, we have Storm, and Storm a month ago was here, right? Storm a month ago was the worst school in the game. Nowadays, I'm going to put them here. I think they're really good. And again, this could just be my balance bias coming out, but Storm is just like so terrifying to play against. Like, they're able to get 8k health now with Dragoon stuff, or Dragoons and Spooky, and it's like, what do you do again? Like, what do you even do? Because, they get an open Rusalka on you. If they have Bubble Control or a Galvanic, that's doing 4.4k every time Rusalka, they just send it. It does 4.4k every time. That's insane. And if they're in Shrike and they send a Rusalka, if they have like two damage buffs on them, whether that be a Blade and a Galvanic, or a what is I don't remember Storm's bubble, but you know the Storm bubble and their aura, as long as they have 2 damage buffs on them, just a single open Rusalka and Shrike is probably going to one-shot you, which is absolutely ridiculous. And on top of that, they also have Lightning Elf, so you can't even shield spam against the Storm, because if you start putting out a bunch of shields, they'll just Lightning Elf and then wait for the open shot and then Rusalka. So I don't know. And then of course, if you don't Blade, then they can pressure you with a Scion. So it's like a no-win situation. Like, you have to play somewhat offensively because you have to be putting on Blades and stuff in order to not get Scioned. But you also have to keep your defenses up because you literally cannot afford to take open Rusalkas or open King Arts or open Sultans or really any of it, right? It's all dangerous. It's all scary. And the fact that Storm actually has decent health now, it's not like great. It's still the worst in the game, but it's like comparable. Like 8k health is nothing to scoff at. So, I think that Storm's in a pretty decent spot right now. I think that it's actually surprisingly not that hard to rank up as a Storm. And you don't even have to like Insane Bolt either. It's so weird. Like, you would think that since Wild Bolt was effectively nerfed because of the Solar Surge changes and whatnot, you would think that Storm would actually get a lot worse. But now they're quite honestly better. Like, you still have Insane Bolt as your I'm about to die, but let's see if I can take you down with me kind of option. But yeah, Wild Bolt spam isn't a thing anymore, but Storm is just so they're just consistent, right? They're just very consistent in what they do. And they have Catch of the Day for taking off blades, and everyone's blading right now because, again, you also kind of have to blade against the Storm. So overall, they're just way more consistent than they ever have been. And the fact that they're able to get pretty comparable health to the other schools, especially compared to Fire, like, I don't know. I think they're in a very good spot. I think that they're better than Balance objectively? Probably not, but I think that they are pretty close to each other. So anyway, that is my personal tier list. If your main is Life, Myth, or Death, and you're really upset that I put them in the lower tiers, just know that, again, I don't think that any of the schools are bad. That's specifically why I didn't give them letter grades. But, I think that this is kind of the natural order of things right now. I think we're kind of back in an Ice, Fire, Balance top 3 situation. If you've been playing the game for a while, you'd know that this trifecta of Balance, Ice, and Fire have kind of just been the vibe for a really, really long time. Like, they've been the best schools for a very long time. So it's kind of like we're seeing the history repeat itself, I guess. But I think that Storm's catching up on Balance like alarmingly fast, because again, I just think that Storm has so many options right now. They're so aggressive. They put on so much pressure early on. It's pretty tricky to beat a Storm. So if you guys agree with my picks or have a different order of things, let me know in the comments below. And please, for the love of God, keep in mind that this was made, again, January 2nd, 2020. I will be, again, probably making updated version of these tier lists as the year goes on. But for now, this is where I think everything stands. So if you guys enjoyed the video today, make sure to leave a like. Tell me that you love me, because I have horrible Wiz self-esteem problems, guys. But anyway, I'll catch you guys in the next video. And that's all I've got for you guys today. Rotozap out. Peace.